Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Keeping It Real with America's Supermom. I am excited about my next guest. I know I say that a lot. I'm listening to myself. It's like, here I am saying the same stuff, but it is exciting. I have with me Lucia. We are actually connected through a referral network group that we're a part of. And first of all, I just want to say I'm not even going to get my little elephants out because it's hard to keep them steady on video. Okay. But she made me these elephants that are so dear to me. They just are a visual cue for me to remember to keep moving forward in my job and just my core values and things that really help me to show up and be the person that I am. So I want to thank her for that. And she's here
Sure.
all the way from Canada, but that's not where she's really from. But we're going to be getting into some great conversation about how women show up in a male dominated industry. So that's kind of a heavy topic. But before we get into that, I want to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself because I can go on and on.
That's fine. I can actually listen to you go on and on. You've got one of the most soothing voices ever. And I do mean it when we meet in the future. I'm just looking forward to that great big supermom hug. That's for sure.
Yes.
So I'm originally from South Africa. I'm born and raised. I started my work career there very much at the bottom. So I started at the bottom and worked my way up into a middle management position. Before I decided in 2020, just as the pandemic kicked off, to get my backside over to Canada. So I started the immigration process in 2019, and it's quite a process to immigrate. Packed up my entire life in South Africa and immigrated to Canada. My husband's Canadian, and we made the decision. There was a couple of factors, but the main factor was his parents are still with us, where mine are both deceased, and there wasn't that strong pull of family, anymore. When you start running out of family, then you have a little bit more freedom in some aspects to make these big decisions. So my daughter's doing her thing across the globe at the moment. So I made that decision. It was hard. It was very hard. It's not an easy decision to pack up your life and immigrate. Hello, Jeanette.
Yes.
And I did it. And
Awesome.
it's like one of the things I'll say as we talk about, the stresses of women working in male-dominated industries is step out of your comfort zone. I'm so far out of my comfort zone. There's no more comfort zone.
I'm telling you, and then to do that during the pandemic. I mean, this was probably your first time doing it, so you probably wouldn't know what to measure it up against because this is COVID. It's your first time, so I just can only imagine how crazy that could have been, though.
Yeah, it's a case of you sort of you leave everything everything. And you step into, a whole new sort of culture. Because the culture, although there are quite a lot of cultures in Canada, the North American culture is quite different to the South African culture. So you leave behind everything that you know, and you step and you just make a change. We were keeping an eye on the pandemic, and with immigration, they sort of allow you 12 months from your date of medical to present yourself at the border in Canada. So we decided we couldn't leave it and wait any longer. I was still waiting for the house to sell. There were a lot of loose ends still to tie. We just couldn't wait any longer. And we actually arrived we arrived on the 29th of Feb. And I think they started locking down around about the 15th of March, I think was when things started to get really, really serious. So all the plans that we made for, seeing Jamie's folks, spending a lot of time with him, spending time with his aunts, etc., that all went out the window because now we had to try and also protect them because they're elderly, by not bringing ourselves into the mix. So it
Mm-hmm.
got really, really interesting. You don't know a soul in Canada. And other than, family, you don't have any
Mm-hmm.
of those, connections that you can rely on. These time differences. It was interesting.
Yeah. Now, so that is something. So, how has this transition been just with your culture? I mean, do you experience any I don't want to say racism, but any kind of ism because you're from South Africa?
I don't, not directly, as I answered that, earlier this week, not directly,
Mhm.
but I think it's something that immigrants do face coming into new countries.
Mhm.
Some people have been very supportive, and I'd like to
Mhm.
say that the majority of people that I've met in Canada have been extremely supportive and very
Mhm.
welcoming, and for
Mhm.
that I really appreciate them. But there is always that uh, hmm, the immigrants are here to take my job kind of thing.
Mhm.
There's sometimes you can run up against that little bit of resentment, I think.
Mhm.
Um, so I have the kind of personality that sort of just forges on.
Mhm.
Those kind of things I don't take that kind of thing personally, and I look at it more as a thing for it's that human, not me.
Right.
So, and I'm also very cognizant of the fact of how I treat people. And
Mhm.
then, of course, there's the other little thing that coming from South Africa, there was a whole thing around South Africa and, all the apartheid. And
Yeah.
I'm also very, very aware of how South Africans can be perceived.
Mhm.
But I believe that it's up to you as an individual, like myself,
Mhm.
to change people's perceptions
I love
of
that.
what I, as a South African and as a white South African, what kind of
Mhm.
person I am.
Mhm.
And that comes down to how I treat people and the
Mhm.
respect. That's why I always say, people don't have to earn my respect. I start from a place of respect, and people will then
Mhm.
lose or gain respect from there. So when meeting people, I always start from a place of I respect them as people. And then depending on their actions and behavior from that, determines whether or not, they gain more respect or lose that respect.
Mhm.
I've looked at it a little differently than to say people must earn my respect or I must
Right.
earn people's respect. I start from there. I
I
respect
love that.
you as a person.
Yeah. Well, and it also helps with what you attract towards you. If
Yes.
you're starting off where you're at a deficit with other people, I mean, that's just some negative energy. So I totally get that. Now, I think I had that former way of thinking before I went through my own journey of recognizing the problems that I had with myself more so than anybody else. But you unlearn the things that don't serve you. So starting off at a deficit, I mean, that doesn't serve you or anybody else. So I love that, but that's just very uh non-conventional, I would say. Look, I'm trying to find words. This has been crazy. We were talking before we hit record. My son is now he's at the hospital. My daughter-in-law was 8 centimeters the last time I talked to him. So I'm kind of like half listening and to the phone, making sure it's not ringing or getting a text. So y'all bear with me. This is the real stuff that goes on behind the scenes.
Hey,
But
it's exciting. It's babyhood
it's
coming
the
up.
first granddaughter. So,
Oh,
I gotta, get my little money together because, girls are different than boys. So I have three grandsons, and you get them a truck or two, and some food. They're good, right? Girls, it's like I gotta get the hair bows and the stockings and purses, and I'm like, and I'm just gonna be the one buying it. I could just see myself, but anyway,
I can't
anyway,
I can't wait to hear about the tales of grandma
yes.
shopping for grandbaby.
Yeah. It's so, boys are sweet though. They just take a lot of energy. Girls is just, they can sit there and look cute for at least a little while. Boys, you put them down and hey, you don't know where they'll end up. Okay, they're busy. But
Oh, I,
so
I don't know about that because I was an unholy terror. I mean, my
yeah.
mother tried her best to dress me up as a princess, and I ended up playing in the mud. So
But as you get older, you kind of come into your own. And you give them signs. I mean, I have daughters that are just, hey, they just are their own. Everybody's got a different personality, you know.
Mm.
But I think in those formative years, they're not really as active as boys are. Okay, I'm just saying. At least that's what I found with my 9 daughters, and it was so funny. So I had this. I had a girl, then a boy, then I had 6 girls in a row, and then I had 3 boys, and then 2 girls at the end. So when we had the boys, this little 3 set, we would find furniture broken. I mean, this is just crazy stuff. They break door handles. I mean, random things. You're like, how could this even get broken? But it was funny because my daughters were like, these boys are a handful. What is wrong with them? Because we had furniture for years with the daughters and it never messed up. Next thing your seat cushions are coming off. I mean, things that it's like, how did they even break this? I don't know. So yeah, I don't know what that's about. But yeah, so it's a totally different lifestyle. We got different furniture and everything because of them. So bless their hearts. But they make life interesting.
That's so
So
true.
So when we think about, since we're talking about male and female, about the industry, you said that, you've had experience in working in this male dominated industry. And so there are many women who are just trying to find different ways to make ends meet for whatever reason, because we've had this pandemic and some of us don't have the luxury of deciding what work we're going to be doing when we have to be sometimes just forced into this position because maybe our jobs have ended or things have happened with our family structure, death and everything with this pandemic that has caused us to just kind of have to get out there and do it. So, for those that may be watching and in this situation, what are some key things that you would like to share with them so that they may be empowered in this position and not going into it feeling like a victim?
I can speak to my own experience, and I had a really hard time for a number of years working in male-dominated industries, from the trucking industry to engineering to automotive aftermarket. So it's very, very much you working with men in industries where men are dominant, and
Mm-hmm.
also the experience that you have to learn or gain to
Mm-hmm.
be able to talk from a point of confidence in any of these things is more difficult because women carry certain perceptions. There are certain perceptions. I do believe that they call it social identity threat. That's what women actually feel. So they feel evaluated based on a negative gender stereotype, and this is the kind of thing. So I know I was there. I faced it. Being a woman in a male-dominated industry, I was seen as not having as much technical knowledge or the same ability as the men, which is, you know, nonsense, really. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, and based on where I started and where I ended in a mid-management role, and having to really struggle through also with my personality type, that came a lot of understanding happened over the years. So I also went through my own personal growth, but I
Mm-hmm.
started to understand who I was, my personality, and how that all fit in. So what I can say to the women out there working and struggling in these male-dominated industries, it's be confident in your decisions. When you make a decision, be confident in that decision. It won't always be a perfect decision. It won't always work out, but just
Mm-hmm.
be confident. By being confident in your decision, even if you are shaking inside, you will gain power and respect for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Have a variety of mentorship, mentors, including men.
Mm-hmm.
Who else can teach you how to cope with men other than men? They have they can teach, definitely have some valuable input. and find those mentors. Mentors in a workplace is not always you know a manager or someone in a leadership position. Some of your best mentors can be your fellow colleagues,
Mm-hmm.
or people in a different department that can actually help you with coping strategies. So find those mentors. Um, Stop competing with each other. I'm generalizing now, but there's a disproportionate amount of competition and unhealthy competition between women in a working environment, sort of competing for that, alpha. I'm going to quote that in position for the
Mm-hmm.
leadership or any kind of promotion. Stop doing that. Stop
Mm-hmm.
comparing your worth and stop competing with each other. Be there for each other. Start creating, which talks to the next thing. Create a network of women within the workplace, outside of the workplace, and anywhere that I believe women are in a unique position to help other women, and we should
Mm-hmm.
definitely should. You're doing a lot of that with America's Supermom, and the
Mm-hmm.
way you're doing, how you're empowering women, and I think more of us need to follow that example and step into those mentorship roles. I might be able to mentor someone or help someone or listen to someone or talk to someone, and I should. I should do that. I'm a woman. I respect and value other women. So
Mm-hmm.
I need to step up to that. And then comes that step out of your comfort zone and push yourself. It's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these things, because we don't have the time to really deep dive into everything, but these things are not as easy as what I might make them sound. It's
Right.
difficult. You need to challenge yourself every single day to step out of your comfort zone. Do not be content with the role or the stereotype that has been assigned to you. Push those boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you do that through, listening to podcasts, whether you do that through reading, whether you do that through reading self-help books, whether you do that with mentors, all of the above, and any other combination of. Um, Promote yourself. We are very, very bad as women in promoting ourselves. I worked with a male colleague that became my manager, and
Mm-hmm.
I actually did have a lot of respect for. After we had our ructions, we had significant ructions. We literally did not speak to each other for months, because he was a very difficult character.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say, he was also someone who understood how different members of the team, their strengths and their weaknesses, and how it all fit together. And he actually turned out to be one of the best managers I've ever had in my life. So there was a lot of respect given for that. But he was exceptionally good at promoting himself. He promoted everything he did, everything he achieved. And I'm like, I was more, can't you see what I'm doing? I want you to see what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
They don't see what you're doing. You need to be out there. You need to be loud and proud in front, confident in your ability, even if you're quaking inside, because I say that again,
Mm-hmm.
quake, shake, shake. It's nerve-wracking doing that
Mm-hmm.
promotion. You need to do that. And then also strategize for success.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Strategize. Write your little strategy for success. So those are just some of the things that I think, and based on what I did myself, that hopefully can, switch on that light bulb somewhere for someone and help
Mm-hmm.
them.
I love that. I mean, you've given us, I mean, that was a master class on a lot of those different principles. And, yes, they definitely, Jeanette says, show up and show. I love that. Um, but one of the things I want to talk about, which I believe was a game changer for me, was learning how to collaborate rather than compete. That was huge. So for somebody who's watching and they want to get started with that, you know, what would be your suggestion? Because I think, we really, it's so far out of our comfort zone. I think a lot of it comes from, you know, kind of this seed that we think that someone doesn't want us to be successful. Or, there's haters out there. That's just something that we kind of tell ourselves to, build ourselves up in the mirror before we go to work. And it's like, this person is your team member. How are they trying to hate on you, So, what are some things that we can start doing practically to kind of lean into that collaboration rather than competition?
I think that comes from how we ourselves, because you can't control anyone else. You can only control
Mm-hmm.
yourself and your own behavior. And I think that is how we set ourselves up on that particular day,
Mm-hmm.
to collaborate. Not everybody's going to be your friend. You are going to have those people at work, in a workplace environment, that are really out to sabotage you and really out to get you. It is a fact. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
what happens to some adults in a workplace environment, but it seems to, it goes south. It really does. But for me, it's controlling your own thoughts and emotions
Mm-hmm.
going into that environment. It's having that sort of that battle plan,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you know you're going to face a colleague that can be adversarial, and
Mm-hmm.
going in there in a calm, even if you're like raging inside, you've got to be cool, calm, collected, professional, and always act from how can I say, a place of come at it from a place of your own strength.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I know what I'm trying to say, but
I get that.
sometimes my carrots don't line up properly in my head.
I get it because when you know who you are, you're not. I tell people all the time, be a thermostat. Okay. So you set the temperature, not being moved by whatever's happening in your environment. So, yeah, I mean, if that's kind of what you're thinking,
And
that's what
also
I'm.
working on self-control.
Mm-hmm.
If I look at myself when I entered the working, you know, in the working world, I had a hell of a temper. That
Mm-hmm.
fire is still in me. I
Mm-hmm.
have a fire. It burns within me all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I've learned to focus that fire. I've learned to focus that, and remain in control. So it doesn't matter how someone sort of provokes me. For the most part, I'm pretty successful at keeping control of myself.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, collaboration, and if you say to yourself, I'm going to collaborate, and it doesn't matter what you're going to, how you feel about that, going into that sort of adversarial position, you always come from that point of strength, that place of strength where you coming as a collaborator and not as a detractor.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, I don't know. Am I making sense today? I
That
really
makes sense now,
I'm
and
sort of
so,
struggling with the words a bit.
but I mean, you mentioned something really good when you said knowing that you have a temper, right? That you can get angry. And how did you get to the point to where you can begin that process of self-control? Because I think we just when we're in that place where we don't have that awareness, it's always somebody else's problem, you know? So it's like, I wouldn't have got upset if they hadn't have said this or they hadn't done that, but when you have that self-awareness, as if what you're mentioning, there's a lot of people that aren't there. So how did you get to that point of really realizing, hey, I'm the one with the anger issue?
It took one event in one of my workplaces to actually give me a bit of a shake up. I
Mhm.
worked with a young guy, technical. He was very, very technical, but we pushed each other's buttons.
Mhm.
We just had that capability of really getting on each other's nerves, and not in a good way.
Mhm.
Um, and that one day, he provoked me. I got up, and it was a long hallway, and he'd been walking down, and we were literally shouting at each other down this hallway in an open plan office. So you can imagine, to the extent where our managing director actually stepped out of a meeting he was having with a customer and going, uh, that man called us into his office after this event and spoke to us like he was our father, versus, being a manager. That I felt literally this big.
Mm.
And that's when I realized I cannot do this in a workplace. You cannot have that loss of control. Doesn't matter how hard they push your buttons. Get up, go for a walk, take a breather, and start working on your triggers. Because you
Mhm.
know you will know once you sit back and go, I have triggers. You'll start realizing what those triggers are, and then you'll start digging a little deeper and saying, okay, now these are the people, the personalities that really trigger me.
Mhm.
And also realize that if it's just you having an issue with someone, then it's a personality clash. If there are many other people having a personality clash with that same individual, it's that person, not you.
Mhm.
So you start to think and look along those lines and understand, I don't know why we're so afraid of admitting, what our issues are, or
Mhm.
what our faults are. Why are we so afraid of that kind of thing?
This is my son.
It's yeah.
Hey, John. E- She's about to give labor. Okay, well, good. Okay, awesome. I'm doing a live podcast, so I had to answer the phone.
Go, mommy, go.
Okay, all right. Well, hey, we're there with y'all. We are excited and waiting. Okay, love you guys. Bye bye. They're getting ready to go into labor. Her water broke, and it's time. So,
I'm
so
looking forward to hearing. I'm looking forward to hearing.
I'm excited. It's a girl. We already know that, but I love that, because, so often we can keep on explaining away the issues instead of doing something about it, you know? And so talk to us about how that really change for you, because I think when it comes to us admitting some problems that we have and really trying to keep them secret, so to speak, it's like we try to cover these things up. How did it really change for you, the fact that you had that reality, that awareness? How did it change how you do things now?
It didn't change overnight.
Okay.
I've done a lot of work, a lot of introspection, a lot of self development on my
Hmm.
own, not just through the companies that I worked for.
Hmm.
Uh, Actual self development of my own self, where I actually, you know, once I started becoming aware of these issues, I started doing things and working on myself and believing in myself. That was the other thing. It's believing. I think we a little we these two things. We either want to bury our head in the sands, or we are too hard on ourselves, and we have to be miss perfect in everything that we say and do, which is also not right. We
Hmm.
are very much human, imperfect humans. But my growth curve came when I was honest with myself, and I said, Lucia, these are the things you need to work on. These are the things you need to focus on. These are the things you're good at. And I also started playing up my positive attributes, not just my
Hmm.
negative. Okay, so I have these few things, that I need to work on, like my temper and my impatience and, my. But I also have this. I'm resilient. I'm strong. I'm
Hmm.
capable. So
Hmm.
it's not just about focusing on your negatives. Focus on your strengths as well.
I love that because we sometimes can forget. I was listening. I did a podcast interview with somebody who's a performance coach, and she said a lot of times that we do not move forward because we only focus on the things we're good at. So if it comes to the activities that we're supposed to be doing, we just do the ones that we're good at and kind of let the other ones go by the wayside. And so that's what really causes us to be so far out of alignment because we're not working to kind of keep those in harmony. So I think that's a great point. So we really and just the reality of realizing that everybody has issues, you know. Um I tell my kids all the time, everybody is not a celebrity is only a celebrity in the moment. We just think, oh my gosh, seeing somebody perform a Beyonce or something. And it's like, Beyonce is not Beyonce 24/7, especially as a mom. It's like, hey, your kids are acting up or doing whatever, every moment is not singing on stage, you know?
I take it this way. We in our businesses we do a SWOT analysis. You know,
Mm-hmm.
do a SWOT analysis on yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and then work on those things. Work on the good. Work on the not so good. Work on
Mm-hmm.
everything.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get obsessive on just focus, like you say. We like to do the things that we're good at. Do the things that we're not so good at too. Because how do you
Mm-hmm.
get better at it? How do you
Mm-hmm.
get better at the things you're not so good at?
So true. So true. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. And I think, I love the fact that being able to talk about the hard topics, um, that is really one of the ways that we grow. It doesn't make any sense for us to, I tell my kids, why keep doing the stuff you're already good at? You need to learn something new. So, yeah, we could be watching the alphabet on video or numbers and counting, but hey, why can't we switch it up? Why can't you do it in a different language or something else so that you can grow and stretch yourself? So, having the conversation about the hard topics just helps us all to flourish and find out more about our strengths than what we even know, because as you introduce new things, you're not sure about how it's going to show up for you if you don't if you're not willing to take that chance. So, great conversation.
No, thank
So,
you for the opportunity, LaChelle. And I
you're
believe in women. I want to see more women leaders. I want to see more women, you know, thriving in STEM,
mm,
fields. I want to see women rock the world. I'm a
mhm,
woman, and I very much support women and support women-led businesses. And I think we need more of that. I really do.
mhm.
I want to see women thrive. We rock. We really
Amen.
do.
I love it. Hey, you're speaking my language, girl. I love it. So
What's
what's the best way for the audience to get a hold of you?
Well, if they want to reach out, they can grab me on email, lucia.steeg@outlook.com,
Mhm,
and just pop a note or, say, I saw you on podcast. They can also reach out to me on LinkedIn and have a
mhm,
chat there if they'd like. And
mhm,
I'm happy to assist in anything that I can, really. And I mean that.
mhm.
If I can help or guide or give a resource, absolutely. Absolutely, I will.
Awesome. Well, and so what final words would you like to share with everybody today?
Believe in yourselves.
Mm, love
Believe. You got this.
that. Mhm. Great
Fear,
word.
fear takes away a lot from us as
Mhm,
women. It takes a lot. It really disempowers us. And
mhm.
I do. Still today, I have some lingering fears and doubts. But I know when I catch it, I smack it on the head. It's like, stop.
Mhm. So true. I mean, it is true. And it definitely matters the environment, the language you say to yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, a number of things that make a difference when it comes to getting out of our comfort zone and moving into new things that we haven't encountered before. So, love that. That is great advice. Well, thank you so much, Lucia, for being on here today. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you, LaChelle. And I'm thinking of you, grandmom,
Yeah.
and your family. And here's to a safe delivery of your grandbaby and lots of blessings for your family.
Oh, I appreciate that. And we want to thank you guys for watching with us today. I know this has been a different kind of episode. This is the first time I answered the phone on the podcast, and but it's been a lot of fun. So as we all prepare for this holiday weekend, everybody be safe. We want to thank you so much for being with us today. Join the conversation. Just because we hit pause or stop recording doesn't mean that we can't continue this conversation about women in male industries and things of that nature, and just sharing strategies and tips that can help us all to get better in life. So if you have anything that you want to add, it's not all lost. Just put it in the comments. We'll be sure to highlight those as well. And again, Lucia, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, LaChelle. You have a wonderful long weekend, and I can't wait to see the photos of grandbaby.
I'm excited. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching with us today. And we will see you all on the next episode. Bye for now.
Bye.